This is Bobby Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive, and I'm here at the Cambridge House International Vancouver Resource Investment Conference 2014. With me to my left is Danny Wettreich. He is the president and CEO of GreenBank Capital, symbol GBC, on the Canadian Securities Exchange. Danny, welcome to SNNLive.
Thank you for having me.
So you have a very interesting company, and it's very different, and it's something that I personally have not seen yet before. Can you give our audience a little bit of background about what
Sure.
GreenBank Capital does?
GreenBank Capital is a corporate investment business, and we have an investment portfolio in mining stocks, but recently we've moved into the Bitcoin space. We've established two new subsidiaries, one to invest long-term in Bitcoin and one to invest in Bitcoin startups. And we are the first company in the world, the first public company in the world to be investing in Bitcoin.
So why Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a phenomenon. It's digital gold. It's a new currency that will, in my opinion, revolutionize the financial payment system worldwide. It's a currency that's been established 4 years ago. It's on a computerized network. It's created by so-called miners who solve algorithmic problems. In the process of solving the problems, if they solve the problems first, they get a Bitcoin as a reward. And solving the problems establishes and records all the transactions of Bitcoin on the network. Bitcoin is anonymous. I can pay something to you, and we are the only ones who know about Bitcoin being paid. It's a medium whereby you can transmit funds through a mobile phone. You don't need a banking account. You don't need to be concerned about currency controls. That's a significant factor.
And a lot of companies now are starting to accept payment with Bitcoins, isn't that right?
Yes. I mean, for example, in the States, Overstock.com, which is a huge retailer online, they've just taken Bitcoin. In fact, last week they started. They took $130,000 in the first day. So it shows you how much pent-up demand there is for this.
So how do you guys work? Do you go out and purchase Bitcoin on the open market, or do you have a team of miners who are getting you?
We're in the process of doing a $5 million debenture offering to accredited investors. $2.5 million of that will go into acquiring Bitcoin in the marketplace. $2.5 million will go into making investments in small Bitcoin startups. We're going to incubate those startups. We're going to go on the board of those startups and nurse them along. A lot of these companies are run by very young people who have great ideas but need some guidance and assistance to take them to the next level. We've established a team of experts and mentors who will do that for us. And we hope that over a period of time, as one or more of these become really successful, we in turn will spin those off as separate public companies.
So, you know, the Bitcoin, it's all, in theory, it's great.
Yes.
It's really exciting. But let's also talk about the downside of it too, because
Sure.
I feel like that's important.
Absolutely. Well, you know, one of the downsides you can argue is that, you know, if you hold your money in Bitcoin wallets, which you have to do, some Bitcoin wallets have been hacked and the money's been stolen. In other cases, if you take fiat currencies and you want to buy Bitcoin, you use an exchange. There are many exchanges online worldwide. Some of the exchanges' security isn't very good, and some of them have also been hacked into. So these are issues that have to be resolved, and one of the things that we want to do at GreenBank is identify companies that can solve some of these issues and invest in them to help strengthen the infrastructure of Bitcoin. But the fact of the matter is, ever since Bitcoin has been introduced 4 years ago, it has increased in value 10 times every single year. And spectacularly, last year it went from $19 in January to over $1,000 in December, which is extraordinary. The question mark is, how can I buy a cup of coffee with a Bitcoin if it's $1,000? Well, the reality is, because it's a digital currency, you can break that down into infinitesimally small pieces. So even if a Bitcoin is worth $1 million, you know, if you take 1/1,000,000th of that, you could use it to buy something. So that's the beauty. It's not a paper currency that requires paper to be printed. It's not a paper currency that can be affected by government entities, central banks. When they want to issue more paper to pay debt, they just print the paper. Those kinds of transactions do not affect the value of Bitcoin. It's purely a supply and demand, and worldwide usage will result in increasing prices.
So you said it was created 4 years ago.
Yes.
Can you give me a little bit more history behind it?
Yes, it was created by a so-called computer programmer called Satoshi, which nobody really knows if that's a real person or not. It could be a syndicate. But
Of course.
It was created as an independent currency. It was designed to bypass the central bank system. It's an open network. To access the network, you simply go onto the Bitcoin system. Most of the network activities are performed by miners. They solve these problems, and in the process of solving the problems, earn themselves bitcoins. And it's, in many cases, if you're a Bitcoin miner, it's a race to the finish line to be the first one to solve the problem and get a Bitcoin.
And I think my final question is, are there any other cryptocurrencies that you guys are currently looking at?
Yes, there are about 150 cryptocurrencies out there. We think only 2 or 3 will be the winners.
Which ones?
That's a good question. We think undoubtedly Bitcoin will be a winner, no question about it. It's the first in the space. It has by far the biggest market share. There are others like Litecoin, which we are very keen on. There will be 1 or 2 others that will be successful. Certainly not 150 currencies will work. You have to have universal acceptance in order for a currency to be useful.
So another question I had for you, is there any government regulation on Bitcoin, or any cryptocurrency for that matter?
Most regulators don't quite know how to deal with cryptocurrencies. Some of them, like Germany, have said it is a currency. Some of them, like Canada, say it's not a currency, and we don't see any issues regarding it. Some of them, like US, say we want to regulate it, and we don't quite know how to regulate it, but we're going to. So there's a lot of unknowns with regard to government controls and regulations, and taxes too.
Right. Because unlike gold, it's not backed by anything, the price of it.
Well, it's gold is backed by supply and demand, right. And the same applies to Bitcoin. It's a supply and demand issue. That's how you establish value. But from a practical point of view, it's not a government-controlled currency. It's an open source currency. It is a function of the people who use it. Its value depends on how much usage it gets. The reason it's gone up so dramatically in 2013 is because there are literally millions of people who believe that it will be a revolution in terms of financial payments. I can send a wire from Canada to Australia through the banking system. It'll take 7 to 10 days, go through 6 different bank hands, and every bank will charge a fee. I can also send the same kind of value in a Bitcoin. It happens in a few minutes. There are no fees of any consequence. The fees are infinitesimally small, and there are no banking systems involved. That indicates to you the potential. You know, if you're in Africa, you don't have a bank account, you can't send any money anywhere or receive any money. But if you have a mobile phone and a Bitcoin wallet, you're there. It's a dramatic change.
Very interesting. So where can my audience go to find out more information about your company?
Well, GreenBankCapitalInc.com is our website, and on that website you'll also, if you're an accredited investor, you can download the private placement documents. And if you're not an accredited investor, you just want to indirectly invest in Bitcoin through our shares, you know, we're quoted on the CSE, and our symbol is GBC.
Thank you so much for coming on to SNNLive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Robert Kraft, or Bobby Kraft if you'd like, and I'm here at the Cambridge International Resource Investment Conference in Vancouver, 2014. Again, this has been Danny Wettreich from GreenBank Capital, symbol GBC, on the Canadian Stock Exchange. Thank you again.
Thank you.